Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to Dream Life University, our kickoff call. I'm so
Hello.
glad to see we got some folks with us tonight. Um, in lieu of everyone's time and making sure that we are just, as quick as we can be and I add the most value possible, we're going to save all the questions that you might have throughout this presentation to the very end. Um, but right now, it looks like we got some awesome people in the house, and I look forward to sharing our presentation with you tonight. So save all those questions to the end, and let's get started. All right. So here we are, Dream Life University. So just to kick this off right, I want to make sure that you know if you're in the right place or not. So you are in the right place if you want more in life, but you don't know what that more is, or you don't know if it's possible. If you work really hard but feel like you're never getting ahead. I know I've often felt that way until I started doing the things that Dream Life University has to offer. You don't have time to start investing if you feel like you're just out of time all the time. Or if you don't have cash to invest in real estate. Yes, that's right. You're in the right place if you feel like you don't have the cash to start investing in real estate. So here's what you're going to learn by hanging out with me today: how to invest your time and money with hyper intentionality so that you can ensure your future becomes exactly what you desire. You're going to learn how to create a strategic plan that we call a roadmap so that you can find success in daily action that lead you towards your dream life. How to identify your hidden skills. We all got them, but using them strategically to create that financially free future, and how to best use those tools in your toolbox so that you can realize your skill sets and put them to practical use. Now, this training, I'll be honest with you, it is not for you if you have a closed mind, if you're wanting all these results from Dream Life University, but you're not willing to put in the work, if you're satisfied with your current life and future, or if you get upset or offended when someone gives 60 minutes of free content and makes a small offer at the end. I promise you I won't be offended if you need to leave or if you stop watching now, if you're watching the recorded. So you might be asking yourself, why am I qualified to teach this? And hopefully you're looking at me and saying, wow, this guy looks really young to be teaching about financial freedom and all this. But I promise you, I practice what I preach, and I'll never give advice for something I haven't done. And when we got started, we had negative net worth. And you'll see in these pictures right here, I'm not just one of those teachers that get up and say, go do this and go do that, and I haven't done any of them. I have absolutely gotten in there, fixed and renovated houses. You see, I'm standing there with a tool bag and renovating a bathroom, standing in front of a house I bought. Um, so I'm not one of those teachers that's going to say, do something that I haven't done myself. And we're going to talk a quick recap of my story. I want y'all to know who I am so that you can know that I'm being serious. So you might be wondering what these three pictures have to do with anything. Well, that first picture, me in front of the Camaro, was one of the biggest mistakes of my life. I took that car and I bought it when I got my first job, and I bought it for way overpriced. And then I decided later to trade it in and roll negative equity. So I made one of those decisions that a lot of people make, and I carried that burden with me for a very long time. That middle picture is one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. That is my beautiful wife, Tiffany, and we have created an amazing life together. But also within that picture is another story of the camper, and we'll kind of get to that a little bit later. And then the last picture is us renovating and moving into our then dream home. So how has hyperintentionality changed my life and my business? Well, picture on the far left is one of me in my former life. I used to be a band director, and that was me conducting one of my high school groups on stage, and I absolutely loved being a high school teacher. But it took all of my time away from my future family. It took all of my time away from Tiffany, and I didn't want to do that. The middle picture is the very first house I bought, and I bought it in 2016. I was still young, I consider young, and I still own that house today, and that's one of the better choices I ever made, was not selling that house. And honestly, I got started in real estate investing because I couldn't sell it. I bought it with a VA loan, and I was underwater. I couldn't sell it because I didn't have enough equity. We weren't in the crazy house prices we are in now. So my agent told me, he said, well, you can either list it by bringing, 8 grand to closing to pay for all the commissions, or you can just list it for rent for a year and then figure it out. Well, I rented it out and met Tiffany about a few months later, and she said, "How's that rental going?" And she said, "Well, you're a really bad landlord because you're not going and picking up checks." And then we got really invested in how to make that rental work, and then that was just the beginning of all of it. And then the last picture is us living and fulfilling our dreams of spending as much time as we want with our future kid. That is Otto. Tiffany and I are expecting, well, she's expecting another one in October. So we're continuing to live that dream life that we've always dreamed of. So this is a quick recap of our timeline. I have the old life and the new life. In the old life, our journey began in 2017 when we decided to buy our very first intentional rental property, not one that I had just moved out of. In 2018, we failed a lot. We lost almost $10,000 on a deal that didn't never happen, but we didn't give up. We went right back in and ended up buying our first. We ended up buying a rental property that year. In 2019, the camper story, I told you it would come back. We ended up moving out of our house and into a camper and bounced around from house to house to house to house, living in the camper, parking it out back, and working on houses. We bought 5 rentals that year. It was crazy. In 2020, Tiffany and I came to expect our first child, and that just really pushed us to hit the number that we needed for financial freedom. And so we bought 4 more rentals that year. In 2021, we were still buying houses, trying to get our numbers up on our income, on our cash flow. So we were financial freedom, but still hustling. So how did we do it? Why is spending the time with me worth it? Well, I'm going to shortcut you. That's the big thing that we can do for you. So, education. We listened to over 3,000 hours of podcasts before we got started. And over the time between when we got started and now, we've read over 50 books, over 1,000 hours in webinars. We've attended more than 5 seminars and attended more than 2 online classes. We've been in networking groups, and those networking groups are super important to be surrounded by people that are living that life that you aspire to be. So Zig Ziglar says, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and we wanted to absolutely live that. So we've attended 3 trips to the REI focus groups. We've been a part of a big mastermind. We've attended countless meetings over time. Well, not countless. I averaged it out about 56 meetings. We had a huge why at the very beginning when we got started. You'll see a picture. That is a ultrasound picture of Otto when we came to know that we were expecting him. And that was a huge motivation for us. And then we took action. We own 15 real estate investing properties that produce that have over 39 doors, and that creates the cash flow. And we've also developed systems over the time to operate that business and set it up to where we're not spending so much time doing it. So fast forward to today. Both Tiffany and I have retired from our jobs before our first son was born. We travel as often as we want, and we became millionaires in our early 30s. And I asked Tiffany, I said, do we really want to put that in there that we did that? She said, well, yeah, maybe, maybe not. I think we do, because sometimes millionaire has this stigma with it. Let me tell you, it's not like the most life-changing thing you'll ever do. It is one of those status things, but that's not what success actually is. And I hope that by spending some time with me, you'll realize that just because someone's a millionaire doesn't make them any special or more special. I'm sorry. But it just shows you that they're successful, that what they're doing works. So why teach? Eric, you've reached financial freedom. You have the choice to do whatever you want. You don't have to go teach people. Well, I used to be a high school teacher, and I became a high school teacher because I wanted to share my passion of music with others, and I wanted to be able to try to transform lives through that process. So I have a huge desire to do it. I wanted to give back. One thing that Jack Miller would say, and that Peter Fortunato and Bill Cook always say, is just, you got to pay it forward. You got to give back. And that is a big thing that I'm trying to do, is to give back things that work for me and Tiffany, and so that it might benefit you. And then ultimately, my faith, God has absolutely brought me the ability to reach people and talk to people. And so I feel like truly it's my calling to teach, and that I can't ignore that. I have to follow through with that. So I just feel like that's an ultimate calling of mine. So our entire life changed. Heck, it started the moment we chose to live our life intentionally with a clear plan for our business and family. And trust me, I promise you, if I could do it, you can too. Um, I'm not a expert or a professional when it comes to real estate investing with tons of cash. And even though I may have more expertise than you, I still have to approach every day with an intentional plan. So a couple things to keep in mind today. You're going to have to get out of your own way. You're going to have to open your mind. It's all about taking action, even if just one action step. They're all baby steps. And perfection is your enemy. Your enemy. My wife is a perfectionist, and it took a lot of work for us to get her to adapt this GITMO mentality. GITMO is an acronym for good enough to move on. So perfection, it can absolutely be your enemy. So what is Dream Life University? What do? We teach on these 5 pillars. And if you know anything about what we do, you know that we've written a book. And in that book, we tell a really delicate story about how a young couple's life was changed by meeting their neighbor who introduces them to these 5 pillars. In these 5 pillars, you can see them: discover your why, create your roadmap, change your mindset, design your lifestyle, and set big goals. Now, today we're going to be diving into pillar 3, change your mindset. Just so you know, the next about 15, 20 minutes are just a snippet of the material that is going to be presented in Dream Life University. So if you're wondering, well, what is today and what is Dream Life? Today is an example of what we're teaching. So we're going to dive in. This is change your mindset. And we're going to do an identity exercise. So I like to kick off this exercise by talking about Tony Robbins and listening to what he has to say. The strongest force in human personality is the need to stay consistent in how we define ourselves. It's heavy. So self-identity. What do you identify yourself as today? You know, what is that self-talk when you ask yourself, who am I? A lot of people do a lot of self-talk that is uplifting, and I think that's fantastic. I do daily aspirations that I have to say to myself every day, I am successful. I am a good father. I am a provider. So if I asked you, who are you? I would like for you to dig in and find one of those things where you're asking yourself, who am I? And your answer is something that you are not proud of, something that you do not like. I grew up fairly, I wouldn't say poor, but we didn't grow up with a lot of money. And growing up, I always convinced myself that I will never really have a lot of money. And when I would ask myself this question, who am I would say, I am not wealthy. I am not able to buy whatever I want to buy. I am not able to order on the right hand of the menu at Longhorn. I have to stay in the preset menu items. But I wanted to change that. And I know that's a small, silly example, but I needed to change that. So we'll start off with the rise exercise. So 1, you got to be aware of who you are. By being aware of who you are, you can start to harness in and figure out what is it about that you don't like. And that drives us to number 2. Figure out what you want and go deep inside. Find that deep desire. And we do this with a why exercise in our course. So one thing is why did I want to have financial and time freedom? Well, when I was a young boy, I remember getting off the school bus and running up the driveway. It was like a quarter mile long. And I would run in the house. I'd go in my room, reach under the bed, and grab my leather mitt that was wrapped up in a rubber band with oil on it, and my baseball glove. And I'd run out in the front yard with my baseball. And what would I have loved for my father to be out there with me to throw a ball with? Well, most of the time, I would spend an hour to 2 hours throwing that baseball up in the air, hoping to see my dad's headlights coming down the driveway. And it wasn't often that he made it home before dark. And when he did, well, he was a diesel mechanic. He worked really hard all the time. And it wasn't that many sunny afternoons that I got to throw ball with my dad. And as I got older, I realized I don't want that. I don't want to be that father that is not able to throw ball with my son because I'm working so hard to produce that income. I don't want to miss those moments. I want to be able to produce more memories than I had. So now that we've done, that's just one exercise of figuring out what you really want and going deep inside. There's a plethora of things that you could dive into and do that why exercise. Why did I want the financial freedom? So that I could have more time. Why did I need more time? Not just because I wanted to spend it doing whatever I wanted to do. I was very intentional about what I wanted to do at that time. And then I had to say, why do I want more time with my family? Well, because of this thing that happened to me. Okay, why is that important? Well, because I don't have certain memories that I wish I had, and I want my son and sons and maybe daughters to be able to have those memories. All right, so now that we've identified it, we have to gain momentum. And how do you gain momentum? Well, the momentum is you making decisions moving forward on investing that lead toward that financial and time freedom. So you're making decisions using that as your fuel. That's the fuel in your fuel tank. Once you have identified that and you're making decisions and moving in that direction, it's time to share. It's time to share that with someone in your life, whether that be your spouse, your partner, or friends at work. Um, Share it with people because it's important. You'll find that a lot of people are going to support you and that are going to help you along the way. So we've gotten to the root of the problem and we've exposed the origin. And now it's time to really get in and challenge the truth. So I asked you earlier, what do you identify as? And to dig deep and find something that was not so, not so great. That thing that you were telling yourself of maybe it's, I am not, you know, in shape, or I am not a healthy eater, or I am not this or that. What you need to right now is cut off that lie because you have a choice to actually be the opposite of what you're telling yourself. So it's very important that you get these affirmations and you start telling yourself what you want to become because what you tell yourself you want to become, you very well can and will become it. I often told my students when I was a teacher, whether you say you can or you can't, you're right. And it's the truth of it. Now, if you're saying to yourself, I am a neurosurgeon, and you've never been in neurosurgery, or I am an astronaut, I am an astronaut. Those are things that you could absolutely aspire to get there. But whether you achieve that, I'm not sure if you'll get there. But it's really good to have those big dreams like that. But going back to that story, let's say that you're telling yourself, I am not healthy. I'm not in shape. We're going to cut that lie off. And we're going to start saying every day to ourselves, I am healthy. I am in shape. I eat healthy. I go on walks. I exercise. So, what are you doing with that? You're rewriting the story from who you were to who you are going to become. In these daily actions of reading that affirmation to yourself of I am this new person. Every single day, you're going to build what you do off of the success pyramid. And at the base of that success pyramid is your subconscious. And this is the foundation on which all of your decisions have to be made. If someone says, hey, do you want to go out for some drinks, but you don't identify as a drinker, you're not going to be at the bar having drinks. Do you think if you're a non-smoker, let's say you don't smoke, do you think you're going to wake up on Saturday morning and drive to the gas station to buy a pack of cigarettes? If you're a non-smoker, you're probably not. Or even if you're not a marathon runner, you're not a marathon runner. You're not going to wake up on Saturday morning and go on a 6-mile run. Right. So the subconscious, the base is the foundation on which all your decisions have to be made. This is where you're telling yourself the future you. Now, in the middle of the success pyramid is what your daily actions look like. Are you making those daily choices, making those daily actions that align with the person you're trying to become. And at the top is your success, that you did it, that you lived your life like you were aspiring to be. You got to think you'll never experience that success at the top unless you build it on the foundation of what you are trying to become. You can't have a bunch of success on top of a building that doesn't have a foundation. So this is where we talk about the identity shift. So I call this the success machine. And I see the three gears here. And that first gear is you identifying how you're operating today. This is who you are today as is with no changes. So, what do you really believe about yourself and what made you who you are today and what brings you joy? Now, in that number three bullet there, what brings you joy, we have an exercise called the top 10 exercise that helps you to identify the things that bring you joy. Because a lot of people are, they may have one or two things. They're like, yeah, I like this, I like that. But we like to really dive in deeper to get you to understand what really brings you the most joy. So as that gear is turning, that gear is just always turning. We have to activate this second gear. And this is plugging in that identity of what you need to change. These are what your greatest desires and goals are. What legacy are you trying to leave behind? What kind of person are you trying to be? Once that gear is engaged, now we can implement that third gear. And that third gear is the living your life as the new you. You notice it starts with those small changes back on gear one by identifying, by becoming aware. Your mindset is an evolving process, y'all. It's not something that you could just go to sleep and then wake up the next morning and you think differently and you behave differently. It's very slow. You're going to see the results, but they're going to be over time. So now I ask you, in 5 years, I am blank. How do you want people to view you in the future? When I first started all of this dreaming, this dream life stuff, before it was dream life, it was just part of my daily action. When I first started, I said, in 5 years, I am a landlord. It was very broad. In 5 years, I am a father. In 5 years, I am financially free. But it took a lot of breaking down to figure out I needed to say, in 5 years, I am a landlord with 15 houses that provides enough cash flow to make myself and my family financially free so I can spend more time with my family. So I can spend as much time as I want to with my family. So I ask you, think to yourself, what do you want to be in 5 years? In 5 years, I am, maybe you're a business owner. Maybe you are teacher of the year. Maybe you are, working because you want to, not because you have to.